Hello lovelies, and welcome to the November 2024 episode of the Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast. My name's Lesley. Apologies for the light behind me. It's a very dark day outside and I'm trying to get as much light in here as possible, so I'll try and keep my head in front of that reflection. Tangent number one. Yes, welcome. If you're here for the umpteenth time, welcome back. If you're here for the first time, welcome here. This is a podcast about yarny stuff, spinning, knitting, crochet, sometimes weaving, sometimes other stuff, which you'll see shortly. But all yarn related as a rule. Recorded on the south coast of the UK, where at the moment we have Storm Bert coming through. Not the most threatening name of storms, although I have known some angry Berts in my life, but that's where we are. Anyway, stop waffling. So it's called the Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast because although I have lots, I rarely have enough of one colour or one yarn to make a whole garment. So I end up adding bits. So there we go. Anytime I'm wearing anything hand knitted, I will put in the notes what it is. For example, this is the Ursa by Jacqueline Cieslak, and it's made mostly out of James C. Beret Marble Chunky. You will see more of that yarn later in the podcast. Where else are we? What else are we doing? Oh yes, I tend to record in bits throughout the month. As I finish something or as I have something to show you, I record about it. That hasn't happened this month. Those who've been here before know that I've got some health stuff going on. I will give an update at the end because I know that not everyone's here to listen to me whinging about my ailments. So I will give an update later on. Excuse me, but for the time being, if I have to mention it in passing, I will, but I'm not going to make a big thing of it. Yes, so thanks to that, it hasn't really happened so far this month. So I have lots to tell you. In fact, I've even had to make notes. That doesn't mean it won't be the chaos that you've come to know and love. It will be. But it's chaos with notes, just so I try and remember everything. So where are we? We are in November. The modification mal, all the prizes have been claimed. So thank you to those who have claimed their prizes. Thank you to everyone who took part. Much appreciated. Hope you enjoyed it. I did. It's all about me. Next month, I'm going to do my annual December mal. Now this is a very loose make-along, and the hope is just to give you a bit of time, hopefully every day, but if it's not, that's life, we understand, a bit of time for crafting. So there'll be a thread on Ravelry, and once we get into January, I'll pull prizes. If it's just a comment thread, so you can comment on other people's things, or just, you know, add a note of what you're up to, then that will be a pattern prize. If it's a post with a picture, that will be eligible for a physical prize, probably some yarn. So I will be setting that up on the 1st of December, and like I say, the hope is to just have a little bit of crafting time. It's a very busy month, whether you celebrate Christmas or Yule or Hanukkah or any of the festivals that happen during December. It is a busy time. So the hope is to be able to give yourself a little bit of downtime and do something yarny. And just to keep some parameters around this make-along, please make sure that what you're posting about is yarny. Because I realise people are doing other crafts, baking, all of those things. But if we can just keep this as yarn or yarn adjacent, so spinning, crochet, knitting, weaving, anything that's kind of yarn adjacent or yarny will be eligible for prizes in the draw. Hope that makes sense. So like I say, that'll start on the 1st of December. Just post when you can, and then I'll draw some prizes in January. That's that. So let's get on to some stuff that I finished, some of which you saw as works in progress last month. And let me just get the first one. So this is some plastic canvas work, and it's a card holder which I'm going to hang on my banister, so you'll see it during December. And excuse me. So some time ago I was given some plastic canvas threads and some bits of plastic canvas So I put them together to make this long strip. Got little holes in it to tie ribbons around to attach it to the banister, and I've just put a few Christmassy symbols and pictures on it. Some of them are a bit wonky. That's where the first card is going to go. The others fairly straightforward. Now I found these mostly on Pinterest. One or two are made up by myself. That gift, for example, just made it up. But if you are looking for cross stitch, I mean this is petit point, this is half cross stitch, but if you are looking for patterns, I will put a link below to Kristi's Corner floss tube episode, or the Kristi's Corner floss tube episode, by Kristi, who is a fabulous cross stitcher, embroiderer, super talented individual, and history professor. Very talented individual. She put out an episode a little while ago which had, I think, over 50 free Christmas and winter charts and patterns. So I'll link to that episode below, and there are lots of ideas there of places you can go to get winter and Christmas type scenes. So thank you for doing that, Kristi. And yes, if you're looking for these kind of things, which of course can be used as knitting patterns as well. I use them for this, but they could be used as knitting graphs. And bear in mind that the stitch size isn't square, whereas the graph is, so you'll have slightly longer, thinner pieces, but for most things that doesn't matter. And yeah, have a look if you're interested. So that's that, a faux. And this was all made out of these plastic canvas threads that I was given. I mean, you could use them out of regular yarn, somewhere between a worsted and Aran weight, I would say, because of the thickness. And yeah, just a simple project which I enjoyed doing. Advents. December is the month of Advents for those who have such things. Now, Megan in New Zealand and I swap Advents. We swap, well, last year I just swapped confectionery, although she sent me a load of yarn as well, which is very kind of her. This year we're swapping yarn and confectionery. So I have those Advents to open, and also Sheila got in contact. May I send you something? Thank you very much. And that was an Advent as well. So thank you, Sheila. Thank you, Megan. I have stuff to open in December, which is fabulous. Thank you. I'm not going to do a daily vlogmas in December. I'm going to go back to the weekly vlogs. So I'll record a little bit every day, particularly when I'm opening the Advents, and then just post it on Friday, which is what I was doing with the weekly vlogs before. So that's how December's going to go in terms of podcasts from me. It means I probably won't do a month end in December. We'll see how things go. Might do, might not. It depends really what I have to talk about. If everything's been on the weekly vlog, then I probably won't do a December vlog just for that. I'll just recap it in January. Yes, so I have these Advents to work on, which is fabulous. The one from Megan is 4-ply or fingering weight yarn. No idea what the one from Sheila is. Looking forward to finding out. But obviously that then gets the mind thinking about what would I like to do with these lovely things. And again, I'm going to refer you to another podcast because Anita, Gaga Knits, was having the same questions in her mind. I think she's now chosen. I haven't caught up with that podcast yet, which I will do. But she put together a podcast with 10 potential Advent ideas, 5 crochet, 5 knit. So I'll link that below because there are some good ideas in there. So if you're in that situation where you've made yourself an Advent or you have an Advent coming and you're looking for ideas, she has some there. So thank you for putting that together, Anita. I will link to it below. Last year I made a Recalibrate sweater, which I love. I really like wearing it. I'm very tempted to make another. And I'm toying up between that and a V-back tee. Now the V-back tee pattern that I have is for double knitting weight yarn, but I quite like making things at a loose gauge so they have a nice drape, and that's what I did with the Recalibrate last year. So I might do the V-back tee. I still haven't decided. I'll let you know. You'll see it when I start making it. Yeah, still deciding on that one, but those are my two kind of forerunning, is forerunning a word? Front running options at the moment. You'll see in December when I decide. No. So those are those things. So let's get on to some finished objects. And you may remember last month I mentioned that I'd said to some friends, kind of half in jest, about I'd be knitting all the Christmas presents this year because I'll have time because I've not been working. And these are friends that we don't exchange gifts with. The year of COVID and lockdown, we had a conversation, shall we not, because we didn't want to go to shops unnecessarily and those sorts of things. And we've kind of kept it going since then. And I'll be honest, that's worked for me because there's nothing really we want. We never know what to get them. We have quite different taste, and you know, you buy something that you think is nice, but it may not be to their taste. And it just feels like a stressful purchase rather than a joyful, I really look forward to giving this to them and hope they enjoy it type purchase. So these folks said, oh, we'd really like these things. I'm like, yeah, fine. But then I was thinking about it, thinking, I don't want to get back into the gift exchange with them because it feels superfluous, really. So next time I spoke to them, I said, I'm happily making these things because I love you and you're my friends, but they are not Christmas gifts. We do not look for things in return. Excuse me. And my friend got disappointed and said, can I still have it in Christmas paper? I said, you can have it in tinsel if you like, but it's not a Christmas gift. We don't want it in, we don't want a Christmas gift. We're not getting back into that. I'm sorry, I know I sound grumpy, but, you know. So I have two gifts for them that are not Christmas gifts. If they choose to open them on Christmas Day, that is their choice, but they are not Christmas gifts. And I really hope they don't give us a gift, because I don't want one. I know that sounds very ungrateful and ungracious, but look at this place. It is full of stuff. I do not need more stuff. I've got, you know, books ready to go to Music Magpie. I've got stuff ready for donation. I'm trying to simplify, not add. God, I'm grumpy. Stop being grumpy, Lesley. Get on with it. Show people what you've made. So, the first thing, the gentleman of the couple has a cowl that he's had for years and years and years and years and years, and it's starting to wear thin. And the one he's got is black. When you see this, you'll understand why I didn't want to make a black cowl. So I said, would grey be acceptable? He said yes. I thought good, because otherwise you're not getting one at all. I'm getting quite bolshy, have you realised? Have you noticed? So he was quite specific in the measurements, because I said, yeah, I'll make you a cowl, but you need to let me know roughly what size, because a cowl can be very long, it can be very tight, it can be very loose. And he gave me the measurements for this. Now, I've made sweaters smaller than this, but this is what he wants. And the reason why he likes this cowl that he has is that it's big and loose, he can kind of bundle up in it, and when he's out on cold days, it goes over his head as well. So this very plain item is the cowl. So you can see it is quite large, and it is just a tube of knitting. I have an I-cord maker, one of those little things with the 3 prongs. I got mine from Victoria Marchant Knits, who I'll link below. She is the UK distributor of the Cord Smith. That's what I went for. So I-cord top and bottom, and then just plain knitting in the round. I was toying with the idea of making this on my knitting machine, as it was just a large piece of plain knitting, but decided against it. I thought, no, a large piece of plain knitting would suit at the moment, so that's what I did. And I took it along when I had appointments and that sort of thing, so I could just knit very simply. It's not the smoothest of knitting. Partly my own fault, well, mainly my own fault. This yarn was unpicked from a project that I'd started, but I'd never steamed the yarn afterwards, so it was still quite crinkly. So when I knitted it, it came out a bit crinkly. It has been blocked. that's as smooth as it's going to get, but it's going to be scrunched up around someone's neck, so I'm not going to worry too much about the fact that I don't have beautifully even stitches. I'm sure they'll be fine. It will keep them as warm whether it's beautifully even or not, and that's what I'm going with. So the yarn is King Cole Merino, 100% Merino, in the stone colourway. I had a cone of the stuff, and this used 533 metres, 148 grams. So I hope they like it. I hope it does the job. Now, the other half of the partnership wanted a hat, wanted a beret, and this friend has an unusually large head. I don't mean that she's arrogant, I mean that she has an unusually large head. So she does have difficulty getting hats because none of them fit. I mean, she was saying that she had an appointment recently for a scan over her head, and they had to kind of reconfigure the cushions to hold her head still because it was all a bit tight and pressing. She doesn't look as if she's got an unusually shaped head, but she has. The crown is larger than average. And she specified what she would like. She wanted it pink, and she wanted a beret, and she wanted a sort of deep-ish rib so that there would be a fair amount to hold on to the crown, but the rest was up to me. Now, as soon as she said beret with a deep rib, I thought of something like this, but I don't think she would have appreciated that, and it's not pink. So instead I found some very pretty pink yarn, which is from Rosie's Knitting Shed. It was her colourway for Christmas a few years ago, called A Little Girl's Christmas, and it's a 75-25 double knitting, and the pattern I used was the Barely a Beret by Sara Wolf, which is a free pattern on Ravelry. And this is the beret. It needs blocking, which I shall do in a moment, and I did a longer than average rib so that hopefully it will stay neatly on her head. Now, I made a complete mistake here. That's going to be a theme for today. This month's episode is going to be called I Make Mistakes, so you don't have to. Because my friend has this larger than average head, I reworked the pattern. It already had an extra large size, but I thought I'd go up one because, like I say, my friend doesn't look as if she has a really large head, but I know from experience that she has difficulty getting hats. And I did the ribbing and then followed the pattern and just kind of scaled it all up. And after I'd finished it, I realised it looked ridiculous. And it looked like a comic French artist. You know, you get these kind of stereotype French artists with the smock and the big bow and the big floppy beret. That's what this looked like. And I thought, no, that's not right. And I stopped and thought for a moment, which had I done earlier would have saved me a rework, but I make mistakes so you don't have to. And it occurred to me that actually all she really needed for this hat to hopefully fit is a bigger gap that her head fits into. The rest of the beret can be the regular size of the pattern. It's just the hole in the middle that needs to be bigger. So I took it back to the rib and reworked it. So we've still got this bigger hole in the middle, and it is quite stretchy, but the overall pattern for the beret is not oversized. So hopefully this will look nice, she'll like it, it'll feel in proportion rather than this big floppy thing that I'd made beforehand. I do need to block this, and I'm going to put it on the plate that I'm going to use to block it so that you can see the decreasing pattern. The pattern gives two options for decreases, and I chose this, which hopefully you can see. And that's the slightly more decorative version. So there's one that's just plain, whereas this has these kind of spokes, which I hope she likes. So that's make number 2. It's all been going on. Make number 3 is the sweater that you saw in progress last month. And this is the Tanis sweater by Courtney A. Clark. It's a crochet sweater, and here it be. So it has this very nice yoke detail, and I completely messed this one up. So it's a paid for pattern, so I won't give away too many details, but it's not going to tell you how to make it by saying you start at the neck and you increase from the neck. And here is a lesson in check your stitch count, because you start increasing fairly early on. I made a mistake at that point, had a few too many stitches, but it's fine because I was trying it on as I went. And I like the boxy shape of it. So the original pattern, I'll put a picture here, is more fitted. Here's me wearing it, less fitted. Fine, I like a boxy shaped sweater. Had I wanted it to look like the original, I would have been disappointed. And I would have unpicked it and did it again. So yes, A, check your stitch count. But B, try it on as you go, because it might be all right anyway. If you don't do both of those things, you go from this to this. Anyway, I'm actually very pleased with it. I know it's quite a major adaptation, because there's a thing in the pattern where it says if you're 1 or 2 stitches out, it doesn't matter. I was 90 stitches out, but it didn't matter. So it's all made using 4-ply or fingering weight yarn, and there is a silly thing among crafters, and I can't be the only person like this, that I would not dream of ordering 5 or 6 skeins of yarn at like 25-30 quid a pop to make one sweater. Because to me, excuse me Heidi, I would find it very difficult to justify spending that much money to make one sweater. However, buying yarn is a separate hobby. So I've got here 5 or 6 balls of hand-dyed yarn at 25-30 quid a pop that I put together, and I'm very happy with this sweater. There is no logic to this, but it doesn't matter. I have all this yarn here. It would be a waste to not use it. Yes, we all justify things in our minds anyway. Right, so what are these yarns? I'm going to get the order wrong of these, I think, but I know the top one is by La Bien Aimée, and it's their merino singles in the Lazy Daisy colourway. I think the bottom one is from Folkestone Harbour Yarn in the Boudoir colourway. This here, this sort of slightly fawny colour, is a Stranded Dye Works merino nylon in the patisserie colourway. This I think is stranded in the crayon colourway, although that could be this one. No, actually that's this one, apologies. So that means by a process of elimination. This is Knit Picks Surefoot Sock in the Cupid colourway. Does that look right? Or is that crayon? Anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I'm missing one. Hand-dyed, various. Modifications, apart from getting the size completely wrong, is I then worked on the neckline a bit, because it just is a plain neckline. I put just a few rows of double crochet, US term single crochet in, and then did a crab stitch edging. So it gives it that slightly picot edge, which I rather like. That's one of my go-tos for finishing crochet. I didn't bother doing that around the sleeve or the hem, mainly because I was running out of yarn by that point. So that is my Tanis sweater by Courtney A. Clark, and I like it very much. And it's probably one of the most expensive sweaters I own, but that doesn't matter. It kept me entertained for a few hours. yeah, that's all I've got to say about that. It's a paid for pattern. I'll link all patterns on Ravelry. Done some spinning, and I think it was last year for birthday himself got me a pack from Which Crafty Lady, and Almas calls it her sit and spin pack. So what that means is she has drafted the fibre, put it into little nests, so you literally just sit and spin, which is great. Now, I don't mind drafting, but it does slow the process up, and sometimes you just want to start. I also thought, because I am a self-taught via YouTube and books spinner, I thought this would be a good exercise for me, because Almas's spinning is absolutely top-notch. It's smooth, it's consistent, it's beautiful. And I thought it would be interesting for me as an inexperienced spinner to get a feel for someone's drafting, because that may help me to improve mine. Yeah. What I found interesting is that some of these pieces, in fact a lot of them, I drafted a little bit more. And by drafting, for those who aren't spinners, you're pulling the fibre, you're kind of gently teasing it apart so that there's more air between the fibres, they're looser so that they twist together more evenly. You don't get so many clumps, it just makes it a more even spin and an easier spin, because otherwise you're just twisting a clump of stuff. So yeah, so I found I was drafting a lot of these pieces. Now, that also demonstrates that it's a personal thing, and absolutely nothing wrong with Almas's drafting, and like I say, nothing wrong with her spinning. I have some of her hand spun and it is absolutely top drawer. But I found that as an interesting thing, that I like to spin with very loosely drafting comparison fibre. So this bag of fibre, now some of it maybe it was slightly compacted because it had been in a bag for a long time, but even so, anyway, I found that interesting. So I have made this chunky old skein of yarn. I have got, how many grams have I got here? A lot. 204 grams, it's 382 metres. It's a classic 3-ply, so I spun 3 singles and then plied them all together. And I got a wraps per inch of 16 wraps per inch, so it's come out at a 4-ply to sport kind of weight looking at it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I am pleased with it. It did come out very consistent, and I think the pre-drafting that had been done helped, because most of that work was already done. I just sort of loosened it a little bit more. Also, the fact that it's Polworth, it's a superwash Polworth fibre, and I find spinning Polworth suits my spinning style. It drafts to the level that I want, it spins consistently. Yeah, I like the way I am able to spin it. So yes, that's that yarn. Now, talking of spinning, those of you who were watching last month will know that thanks to some health problems, i.e. an hour-long nosebleed, we missed a trip out. And that was extremely disappointing, because I'd been looking forward to this for a while, and at the moment not having many trips out, so it was going to be an absolute treat. And it didn't happen, so very disappointed. What the event was going to a local smallholding farm and having afternoon tea there and feeding their animals. Not feeding them the afternoon tea, feeding them animal food, but spending time with their animals, including alpacas. Now, who doesn't love an alpaca? They're just the most gorgeous things. So it was very disappointing that that didn't happen. And himself had been looking forward to it as well. I mean, it was nominally my treat because the voucher he'd got me as a Christmas gift last year, but it was something we were both looking forward to and going to enjoy. He had rung them at the time to say we were delayed, then to say I'm really sorry we won't be coming. And then he got in touch afterwards and said, look, we're really sorry to have messed you around. We would like to book and, you know, pay, come again. And the absolute loveliest people in the world said, no, 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 under the circumstances, you don't have to pay. Can you come next Monday? Just so kind and generous, because, you know, they lost one of their sessions there. And by sessions, what I mean is what they do is you have run of the place for 2 hours and you are the only party booked for that 2 hours. So you're not surrounded by, you know, family groups, screaming children, people you might not want to spend 2 hours with. It is just your time with the animals, having the nice food. So for someone to cancel at 0 notice, as we did, they've already prepared the food and they could have filled that time with another party. So we were just so touched that they were very, very kind and generous to do that. And yes, we were able to go the next week and it was lovely. So on the small holding, they used to have 3 alpacas. They've only got 2 now. Ollie and Ricardo. They've got some sheep. They've got a couple of pygmy goats, and they are training these pygmy goats to be therapy animals. Go into nursing homes and that sort of thing. And so these therapy animals, these pygmy goats, love a fuss, love a cuddle, love being groomed, very friendly. There's also a clutch of chickens who are all named after drag stars. That made me smile. Yeah, so you just have 2 hours in this place. Now they have outside table and chairs for the good weather. It's November, so colder. So they have a sort of summer house cabin type of thing with sofas and heaters, and they just come every half an hour or so and top up the food, which was delicious and plentiful. And they give you a bag and some foil and cling film to bring stuff home, which we did because it was plentiful. I mean, my appetite isn't what it would otherwise be anyway, but it was delicious stuff. And yeah, we brought that home and finished it off later because it was absolutely scrummy. And just the loveliest time. So they show you how to feed the alpacas. They tell you the sheep aren't that interested in you, which is fair enough. You can just go and talk to them or what have you. Pygmy goats, they show you where the brushes are, so you can sit next to them. And where possible, they use stuff from their small holding in their baking, so eggs from the chickens, that sort of thing. Was a vegetarian menu. So there were sandwiches, I'm going to go through the food. There were sandwiches, there were sort of cakes and treats, so like a eat and mess dessert and little cakes and petit four and that sort of thing. And then they brought out scones with clotted cream and jam, and it was just delicious. They also had in there a little shop, a little corner shop, a corner of the cabin. And because they had been so generous in giving us this time for free, we wanted to give something back. And they have a children's book that they've written, so I got one of those from my great niece. They have mugs, so I got a mug. And they also were selling fleece. So this is Pedro, who's sadly no longer with them. This is Ricardo. And this is Ollie. So I have alpaca fleece. And initially it was like, I don't want more stuff, I'm not going to buy any fleece. But they had been so generous and we just wanted to show our appreciation and help their business. Support their business. Help their business sounds like they need help, but wanted to support their business. So just the nicest people. So yes, I have bits of alpaca there to spin. My idea is, and I don't know how long this is going to take me, so this will be in a much future podcast, no doubt. My idea is to spin the fleece, knit some hats, and then send them to them. So there are 2 people who run the farm, and I would very much like to send them the hats from their own alpacas. Now, they may well be spinners and knitters themselves. I don't know. They didn't say. But I just wanted to do that as a thank you for their kindness. So I'm going to put some footage in here of photographs and videos. So they show you how to feed the alpacas, and you start off with basically it's a bit like a saucepan, you put food in, you hold it out. When they get to know you, you can then put the feed in your hands and they come and snuffle out of your hands, which himself was doing. So I am now calling him St. Francis of Assisi. He's an animal lover. Animals love him, I think, because they know a soft touch when they see one, so they know that if there are any treats to be had, he's the man. So yeah, he had a lovely time feeding the alpacas. Mine never got close enough. I was feeding them out of the pan thing, but they weren't as hungry. Ollie wasn't as hungry as Ricardo, and that's fine. But yeah, we cuddled the goats and all of those things. It has been suggested by people who know himself better that maybe Dr. Dolittle would be a good name rather than St. Francis of Assisi, but I wouldn't be that rude. Yep, so footage here with a bit of music, just of the farm and the animals. And it wasn't the best of weather days, but it was a lovely day. Hello lovelies, this is what a difference a week makes, because I recorded all that stuff about 8-9 days ago, and since then life has not been straightforward. Been in hospital a couple of times, yeah, so not going to do as much for this month's vlog podcast as I had planned, but this way I'll get the thing up. So this will be the last section. And then I'm going to start opening advents from tomorrow. Now, tomorrow is actually the 4th, so I'm a little bit late starting, but it doesn't matter. It's not a race. And I will start opening advents and working with them. So that's the plan. So life has been not great. As you can see, I'm feeling very cold all the time, so I'm wearing a lot of knitwear. And I'm glad I have a lot of knitwear. But yeah, I'm going to bring things to a close with this, and then you'll have the weekly vlogs, which will hopefully go up every Friday, providing I don't have any problems with health or anything to stop me doing those. So thanks for everyone for being here. Sorry I still haven't answered comments and thoughts yet. I do still intend to. Thank you for everyone who's reached out and got in contact and just checked in. I'm kind of doing okay-ish. I'm finding the chemo pretty brutal. Some of the side effects are having quite an impact on me. It has delayed a couple of the treatments, so that's part of the situation at the moment. But hopefully we are getting back on schedule. And when I have my next treatment, which will hopefully be Thursday, but we don't know, I'll then be halfway through. So that will feel good to have got there. But apart from that, wishing you all good things. Thank you for being here. Thanks for all your thoughts. Look after yourselves. Take good care. Go easy on yourselves. It's a busy time of year and there's lots of stuff going on. So just do what you can when you can and give yourself grace. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.